Good. By the way, in the traditional studio, we had artists who would paint design, paint by hand. You had artists that would actually do the color separations. You had artists that would do the layout, which have to lay out the pattern to meet the engineering specifications of the technology. Right? You had the head designers who are coming up with the concepts in different markets. We'd have a couple or three of those. You had artists in the engraving shop making those screens, okay, because there's artistic elements have to be applied when you make the screens. You had colorists, both in the studio and in the manufacturing plant. So you had all these jobs. Okay? And kind of all those specific jobs are still there, but they've been a little bit consolidated. So you guys should really, you know, you can't be really truly specialized. And I'm talking print design. You should have a pretty good feel for the whole thing. You should have a good color sense. You should have a good creativity design sense. You should have a good feel for how to take that particular design, communicate it, apply it so that you can actually produce it. Okay, not just paint up one thing. And like the Mona Lisa asks people to come to Paris and look at it and pay money. You want to make 17 billion yards of your design. Okay, you're out there. You want to get out there. Okay. Now, so there is a better way, and that better way, if you think about it, okay, so what's the idea? A couple of big ideas behind the better way. Like your desktop printer. So let's just take the basic. So I have a desktop printer that prints paper. Okay. So I have a desktop printer. I'm going to put a piece of fabric in it. Okay. A piece of fabric printed. Okay. So I think I'd like to make sure I make a creation that I can make into a garment and show around. So I use textile fast inks. Cool. So now I have a piece of fabric with textile fast dyes on there. I can make it, I can run across in the rain, it's not going to run. You know? So then you say, okay, what's the next step? Well, let's make it bigger. So I make it bigger. And what's the next step? A large format printer. So you can have full width design, 45 to 60 inches wide. And by the way, you guys got one of them here. Susan got one, hiding in her desk. Okay. And then the next thing you have to do is make it continuous. So now you've got it, that's the idea. You pull these things together, you have a much better way of producing fabric, a much better way of designing and applying your art, of communicating your ideas back onto fabric. I'm doing good on time. I'm going to show you one more thing, sorry. There's another, sorry, I'm going back a couple of steps. There's another good thing that happens out in developing design in the textile printing end of the industry, and that's called licensing, licenses. Like, say that for me, licensing? This is design, it's called Mossy Oak. It was developed for hunters, basically hunters wear. Now it's very popular. It's finding its way into bags, accessories, and also into apparel. There was a company that developed this pattern. Every time a yard of this stuff is printed, that company gets money. That's what I want. The check's for free, right? Develop this thing. So this happens more often than you think. It happened here with this Mossy Oak. I'm sorry. See it now? Okay, Mossy Oak happened here. That's a big deal, because if you make a hit, you can do real well. And you can put your design into all kinds of different areas on different fabrics. Also, these are military fabrics, so I work a little bit in Fall River for a company that produces these military fabrics for uniforms. These designs, this one particularly was developed not by the military, but by some outside company who then took this pattern and sold it to the military. So now you have millions of yards of this particular pattern, okay, that is being produced by those who produce for the military. And that company gets money for every single yard that's printed on this pattern. This was developed by the government, okay? So government designers developed this. There's a lot more to this than just art specifications. There are all kinds of performance specifications. There's the color synergy, so there's camouflage. The colors have to be balanced correctly. The colors also have to have infrared properties, so that if viewed under night goggles, you're not going to pick up the pattern at night. Okay, so look for the invisible side. Point being that there's all this other good stuff to do in print also, and you get money for it. Oh my God. I had an idea in spring break. It was my big idea, and now I just collect money. Where was I? Okay, so like your desktop printer, this is the big idea. There are actually printers out there that did what I just said. They can print continuous, large format, full width using textile fast dies right off of the CAD system. Okay? So how much easier does that make it? These printers are actually referred to as digital printers. You'll see some of my slides say inkjet printers, and they're really digital printers, or you can call CAD printers. Okay? So the operation, color control, design are all under control of a digital system. So how easy is that? You sit there on your CAD, okay? Scan in the element. You can do it in Photoshop too. You scan the element in, use Photoshop to toss it, color it, expand, size it, take it out to a certain width, and then you press a button and you print it. You print it on fabric. It's right there. And a lot of studios have these inkjet CAD digital type printers in their studios. So their designers are working on computers, on CAD, and then immediately downloading their ideas right to fabric. So that's real easy. And there's a lot of advantages to doing that, besides the control. Okay, I have to go through one thing. This is an aside. So if you take 113, the PowerPoints have asides. This is an aside. It talks about spot color versus process color. I talked a little bit about spot color application. Each color has its own position. Colors are pre-mixed and applied to that position. That's how traditional screen printing is done. Okay? I didn't talk about process color application. Process color application is like your desktop printer. You have 4 colors, CMYK, okay? And the CMYK colors are dotted or jet printed to the surface of the substrate, either paper or fabric, like fabric. And then they blend on the surface. Okay. So you can get nice, so these, I'll start showing some of these prints. These are digital prints, inkjet prints, where the color, CMYK colors, are blended to the surface. Some machines have actually 8 colors, so they have a cut of the CMYK plus the CMYK. And that's called process color. You should understand that very well. So I put an extra slide up on that. Spot color versus process color, very important to understand. Okay. What did I say? Excellent, get an A. Okay. Very important to understand this in terms of textile printing. Okay. So this is simple. We can develop design on Photoshop. We can print design on paper on a desktop printer. Now we can print on fabric. We use textile fast dies. We use large format printers. And there's one of them. It's really there. This is a digital printer. It's a Momaki. 8 color heads, so CMYK plus some definition from CMYK. Gives you more range of color. Okay, and this prints fabric continuously. And they are in a lot of studios. Okay? And this sample and studios actually do short runs. You can do short runs, so once you develop your design, you can do a sample so you can look at it, or you can do a short run. So this reminds you of, there's a studio in New York that did short run. They printed the Spider-Man costumes. This reminds me because it's nylon spandex, and this was printed on an inkjet digital printer. Okay, and that's what they did. That was their order, 15 whatever. Spider-Man costumes for the movies. So that's you can do that. You can print an individual design for 5 yards, make a garment, and then it's on the Academy Award, white carpet runway, whatever. Or where these are most used is to do short-run samples. Okay? So instead of doing that process where I talk about painting, separating, engraving, etc., and waiting maybe the traditional way, waiting maybe 3 to 4 weeks to get your sample back. It has to be done down on traditional production machinery. You can have this stuff done instantaneously. So now you have, look at that picture, tie to this picture. Okay, so now you can do 1 yard. You could take this is one. You could do 26 color combinations on this design, where you mix the colors, mix and match the colors in different positions. And if you think about it, you could print small 12 by 12 inch squares of your 26 colors, okay? So within 5 yards, I say 26, that's the alphabet, because at Cranston we used to limit our designers to 26 color combinations. After that, we couldn't do any more. But think about all the color combinations you can do. Then you can determine the synergy of the colors, because sometimes colors don't work well in prints like you think they would work together in prints. And that's an important part of print design, is to really determine the synergy of the colors that you select. Not only the color range, but the color depth, the colors against each other, because some colors will fall on to each other and make a third color. They have to all work together. Okay. I'm going to show you a yellow design pretty soon. Be very careful with yellow, because yellow can overtake your pattern. It becomes screaming yellow zonkers sometimes. Oh God, the yellow's too much. Okay? But you can do all that. You can do this pre-sampling using textile fast dyes. Dyes are going to be used in production. Okay? You can do all that stuff. You can do a short run. You can do an instantaneous run to make a garment that you would take and then show to your customers, or you can get a line of, say, 15 to 18 different patterns. I'll go more. 25 to 30 different patterns that you would take to your show, because you have to have that at the show next week. You're going to be able to sell it. It's there to sell. And you have all this stuff done. Okay, you don't have to wait 3 or 4 weeks. And you don't have to engrave screens. Okay? So, inkjet printing or digital printing operates from digital files. 4-color process we talked about. Colors started with the fabric. It's mixed on fabric surface. Dot resolution can be adjusted. See some of that. This is a digital print. You can see a little bit of the dottiness. You can adjust that. The dotting is called dithering. Color saturation can be adjusted. Layering. Fabric preparation and color fixation is necessary. Okay, you got to prepare the fabric to accept the textile fast dyes. Then you got to take those textile fast dyes and fix them into the fabric. You guys have been through 303, know different dye classes. So the main ones used in digital printing are fiber active colors for cottons or cellulose materials, acid dyes for nylon, Spider-Man costumes, nylon spandex, acid dyes. And also, the acid dyes are big because they can be applied to silk or wool also. So FRCs, acids, and dispersed dyes, polyesters. A lot of polyesters done on inkjet printing. Those are the 3 main classes. And now that I'm thinking about it, there is you guys have been to Italy. I think some of you guys have been to northern Italy. Okay, so besides going to Italy and eating a lot of food, I suppose you study art. And north of Milan is a city called Como. Como was the silk printing capital of the world. So back when men's ties, you been there? You been to Como? Just went there to eat. But it was all silk ties, silk scarves. It was a gigantic silk industry. It was all done by hand. Very expensive fabric, so they would make the screens, and they'd just go down and do the screens by hand. That's all been converted to doing it primarily by digital inkjet printing now. because you can take those acid dyes, nice acid dyes, and take the silk, and you can produce these things. You produce a lot of, okay, I just want to produce one tie, one scarf, or, 5 yards of 1,000 different designs. And a lot of that now is done by digital printing. Okay? Still done in Como, still done in Japan. A lot of silk done there. Just had that side. Okay. So the advantages of doing this stuff, I mentioned some of them so far, is that there's no screen engraving required, no color makeup required. Okay? So don't forget. There's no colorways, so don't forget that some of those first pictures, I pointed out those drums of color next to the rotary screen printing machines, the color that's all over the machine that has to be washed down. There's waste color, because you don't use everything that's in the screen. You don't have to make screens. There's $500 for lunch right there. So these are all the basic advantages. No downtime for pattern change. So instead of stopping the machine, taking all the screens out, washing them up, having the waste, having the water, okay, you just go, boop, file number 2, and then keep printing. Wastewater energy. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is this thing called pattern repeat constraints and pattern stepping restraints. Okay? I'll put that in a second. So those are all the advantages. So now, you guys are super hot artist, designer type people. All you're going to do is sit in your studio with one of those virtual reality helmets on and just download your brain to that digital printer that's on the other side of the room. Cool. I'm just sitting there with a margarita, just downloading my creativity. That's kind of a far-fetched vision, but sometimes I think that. Ralph Lauren riding his pony around, just thinking of things, goes into his helmet, goes by Wi-Fi to a CAD machine. It's so simple now, because this is really we talked about the Industrial Revolution, this is really the communications revolution. You go into the digital, once you digitize a file, then you can just have it all over the place and do lots of different things with it. So communication, we went through the Industrial Revolution, it changed things. It's part of the communication. They still call it communications revolution? Yeah, that's what we're into. Makes things so much easier. Makes it easy for you to get your creativity out. Makes it easy for you guys, you want to be print designers, to drive the industry, drive that 17 billion, whatever the number is. It's really high. Square yards, square meters of fabric through the system.